Well, hello there. I'm going to show you how to do my Juniper Flare granny type square. So I'm doing it in two colors, and the colors I have here are a navy type blue and a really deep kind of burgundy red. So those are two colors I'm going to use. Now I have my sample piece here, which helped show me the dimensions. It was a little too long here, but it was a perfect here, here, and here to get the dimensions. So now I'm going to give you the revised pattern where they're perfectly balanced into a nice square. Okay, now the colors I'm using are a bunch of different Riot Chunkies from King Cole. And the color that I just showed you that I did the sample in was done with that color and that color. But what I do is I'm just cutting off some of the colors on 4 or 5 different ones that had a mix of colors I wanted to use. You don't have to do that, of course. You can use different balls. But I had a bunch of these, and they have so many color choices on each one. And I like the yarn. It is 80% acrylic and 20% wool, I believe. I'll just look at it. But 30% wool, 70% acrylic. But you can use any yarn you want to do this. Okay, and the loom hook I'm using is one that I got on Etsy. It's from a lady that calls herself Touche Crochet, but she makes the odd loom hook. And I like them. And I especially like it, it's very blunt, so it's good with the plastic loom I'm using, so it doesn't scratch it. And the loom I'm using is an element melt loom, and it's their 5/8 set. So this is a 5/8 inch loom, and I'm using 12 pegs. And if you use a different loom than a 5/8 inch loom, I can't guarantee that the recipe, or the pattern I'm showing you will be square. You'll have to work out to get it square, because for each peg I know it's 2 rows to be the same length of the peg to peg stitch going widthwise, and I need double going lengthwise to get it to square. So I worked this out for a 5/8 inch loom. But you can do it on any loom, and you could actually do this exact pattern, and you might just get a bit more of a rectangle if you use a different loom. Okay, so I hope that helps. And so I've got the 12 pegs, and I've put a marker here and here. And so I'm going to have 3 pegs on each end in color 1, which I'm going to have be the navy. And in color 2 for these pegs, not right away, but when I'm ready to use them for the different color for color 2, it'll be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pegs. Okay, so I'll get set up to get started, and we will see you in a minute. Okay, so we're just going to cast on. So I just make a slip knot. Later on, I take the slip knot off when I'm going to join them, because I don't like to have the slip knot there. So I put it on number 1 peg, just like that. You can make a slip knot any way that you like to make it. And then when I cast on, I'm just going to put the loom hook in this knot right here, pull up a loop, and I'm going to tighten it with this. And then I'm just going to put down my loom hook, because I'm going to go behind the next peg and pull the working yarn through. Behind the next peg, pull the working yarn through. Behind the next peg, pull the working yarn through, and do that all the way to the end. And we go right to the end peg. And then we knit this off. Okay, and then I'm going to just, after I do that, I'm just going to come to the next peg and I'm going to do owl eye. And how you do owl eye stitch is you go over the first peg, you come from behind and go over both the first and second peg, keeping them loose, and just knit them off. And then you're on this peg, whatever peg you're on is always peg 1. You go over 1 and 2 and just knit them. On peg 1, go over 1 and 2 and knit them. On peg 1, go over 1 and 2 and knit them. And so that's all you do, and you go all the way to the end of the row, and we're going to do 6 rows of this stitch. So this is row 1. We did the cast on, now this is row 1. And then just to make it easier to find and connect it for me with this, I'm going to come over this peg with the second stitch, and I'm going to come over here in an E-wrap. And you don't have to do it that way. You can just do the second stitch on here and come back and do the E-wrap. And then I'm just going to, that's called skipping the stitch. I'm going to come back over the first peg, because now we're doing row 2. And we're going to knit it, and then come over and do the owl eye stitch. We always have 2 stitches on every peg with owl eye. Okay, and then when we're here, I just make sure that this is loose, because I want it to be nice and loose and easy to find, and I also don't want it to pull tighter. Okay, so this is row 2, and so you're just going to keep going like that, going back and forth, and do 6 rows of owl eye, and then we'll add in the other color. So we'll catch up then. I will see you in a bit. Okay, so I'm about to do row 7. Now row 7 to 17 will be the same, going back and forth, and I'll show you how to do them. And the whole project is a total of 24 rows. Okay, so this is row 7, and here we are, and I've done the E-wrap stitch here, and then I'm going to do the first peg, and we do that in owl eye. Okay, and we do that down to here until we get to the marked peg. So I don't do the marked peg, so I do my second stitch on owl eye, but instead of going over both, I just go over the one peg and knit it off, and I leave the navy just right there. Then I'm going to take the red. Now there's different ways you can add in your color. I'm going to show you the way I'm doing it for this project, but if you'd like to do another way, go ahead. So here's my red, and I'm going to put that in the middle right now. Well, actually, I'll leave it here. I think that's better, and I'll put this one just behind me there. I want it out of the way. Okay? And when I put the red one on, so here's the first peg it's going to be on, all I'm going to do is put the red one on. I'm not going to attach it. I am going to attach it later, so I'm holding on to it. But if you prefer, you can put it on with a slip knot or do it whatever way you like to do that. But I'm just going to add this in just by like this and holding it, but I'm going to wrap it twice. I'm going to go around it and then come around it again. So I have 2 stitches on it like this. Okay, I'm going to hold it, and then I'm going to knit this one over, and then I'm going to knit the second one over. This is Juniper berry stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to make sure that's tight enough. Then I'm going to come to the next peg and do the same thing and go around it twice, and then I'm going to take this one over. Whoops, there it goes, it all went over, and then I'm going to take the second one over. Okay, tighten it a little bit, go over 2, take it over. Now at this point is when I join it, so there won't be a hole. Now the thing is, when you're going from one color to the other, if you're too loose, you can get a hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this red one and this blue one here, and I'm going to tie them together. So I'm just going to make a knot like this and make it nice and tight between them, and then do a second one nice and tight between them. And I don't mind putting the knot for this because that knot just, I can never feel it in the final project. But if that's not what you want to do, you can do a slip knot or do some kind of a attachment that you like to do for color work when you add in a new color, and then you can just weave them in. I will be weaving them in after I do this, but do it any way you like, okay? And so then I'm going to continue on with the red. Okay, I did this one, so this is the next one. I wrap it around twice, and I always do this in 2 steps. If you take both of them, you'll get my Juniper stitch, and it's a looser stitch. And I tried it out with this pattern. I thought it was a little too loose, so I wanted to do Juniper berry. So you take them over one at a time. Tighten, wrap it twice, take the bottom one over the top, and then the next one, and then wrap it twice, bottom one over the next one, wrap it twice, bottom one over the next one. Oops, I went too far. So I'll take that off. See, everyone makes mistakes, and I'll put that one back on. We ran out of the marked pegs. So now we have to add in a blue. Okay, now you got to figure out a system so your yarn doesn't get all tangled up. So I always leave one over there. The one I'm just finished working on, I'm going to put in the middle here. And I use just enough. I can always add in a color if I'm not enough, just enough it won't tangle up too much if it tangles. Now we got to add the blue in. So how I'm going to add the blue in is exactly the same way, but this time I'm going to add it in doing an owleye stitch, okay? So all I'm going to do is hold this in place again, and I'm going to go over it, and holding it tight, I'm going to come back over it and over the next peg, knit it off. This is loose, so I'm going to make sure I pull it tight, and now we've got that color added in, okay? And then I'm going to just keep going, and I'm going to go over and do my E-wrap on the last peg there, and then come back and do my one stitch here and my second one here, and then I'm just going to do one more, and now I'm just going to tie them together now. Okay, so these two, the red and the blue down here, needed to be tied together. You always want to do that before you knit them over, right? So I'm going to tie it together in the knot, and now those colors are added and secured. Okay, so now when I'm coming back, I have to do the red. Okay, I need to do red here. So what I do to do that, so I've got my blue, if I can find where it went. Had it in a ball, but now it's not going to be in a ball. Okay, but it doesn't matter. So if I just do it like this and add in my red, I'm going to have a hole here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them like this and just give them a twist. And that is going to keep them tight. Okay? So that there's no hole from when I add in a new one. So if I show you on that other one here, if you look at where I added in, which way is up? This way is up. I didn't actually bind this off. I just put a thing for you to hold it because I knew it was my sample piece. But if you look at where the brown to the orange goes, there's no hole here where I added in the new color. And there would normally be a hole because there's no stitch in between if you don't do something when you add in the color, right? So I did that. That's the way I like to do it. Okay, so now we're red, and I just do the stitch I'm supposed to do here. So it's this stitch, Juniper berry. And I go over. It's going to be a little tight because I'm going to the owleye stitch. So now you want to make sure you got the right one. So turn them to make sure which one's on the bottom, and then the next one over, okay? And 2 stitches, and go over, over, and the next one, okay? And best to keep patient. Figure out a good way to keep your yarn from getting all your piece of yarn. This is only add 3 colors really, but color 1 is of course the same color. And so that they don't get tangled up. Okay, so we went to there. Now we're going to use the blue. So I'm going to take this blue and get it out of the way so I don't get mixed up. I'm going to put the red in there and the blue on the outside because it's the next color we use. But what we have to do is take this and I'm going to twist them around each other so that they'll stay tight. And if I go back to this other one, right, it's going to be nice and tight. You just make sure you push it down, push everything down to keep it good. And I'm going to do the blue. So the red's on the inside. Move the loom around and you get a little bit confused. But anyway, here we go. And then we're doing owl eye. So there's our owl eye. Come back over here. And then the E-wrap. Back here. And here. And then right here, I'm just going to loosen this. Okay. And then I'm just going to be here, and I'm going to take the red, which I left here, and pick up the blue, and just twist them around. I'll go that way, because the red is coming. Make sure that's tight. And then I go on to do the juniper berry stitch right here. Whoop, right here on the peg. That's marked, okay? So that's all you do, and you keep doing that back and forth, back and forth. After you've joined them, you're always going to be twisting one over the other so they stay tight. And that's what you want. You want the color to come in like it's coming in right here without a hole, okay? And it's looser here, and if you see it's a bit looser here, and that's only because we twisted them, and we're just going to make sure that this is staying tight when we come back. That's all, okay? So you're going to keep going until you finish row 17, and then we're going to do the next step. Okay, so we will see you then. Okay, so now that you've done those rows, your 12 rows, which are right here, now you're ready to do your last 6 rows of color 1. So I just started this row, right? And now we're going to take out the red one. So we're going to go back into owl eye right here. So what we're going to do is pass the color, and I've already cut it. We're just going to pass the color again to do that, to keep it tight. And then we're going to do owl eye. So we're picking up the red, and this is row 1 of the 6 rows that are going to finish this. Then when we get over here, I'll pick the longest one of these, because this one looks a little short, so probably that one to be the blue one that does the finishing off, color 1. Okay, so that means, and so I'll just finish off the one here. Okay, then what we're going to do is take this one right here, and it's the longer one, and we are going to pass it under this one, and this one can now be cut down, but I will just do a couple stitches before I do that, I think. There we go, and then we're going to go over and do owl eye. Put this over here. This is the nice long one. Might be even longer than what we need, but I'd rather use the longer one. And the E-wrap at the end. And so we're just going to keep doing owl eye then for 6 rows. And I'm just going to leave that there now because I'm going to cut this one off. But it's got to be pulled tight because that's where we put the one color over the other. And leave it long enough to weave in. And now we don't have to worry about things getting tangled anymore because we're just going to do the straight blue color. Okay, and we're going to do owl eye, and then what we'll do is I'll work ahead. We'll meet up when it's time to bind off. Okay, so we will see you then. Okay, so now we are going to bind off. So I finished the last row here, and this is the last E-wrap on this side, and then I cut the yarn so it went around 1, 2, 3 times for the length of the knitting we did, just to make sure that we have enough. Okay, so we count this as peg 1, and we go down the first peg. We always go down the first peg. Then we go up the peg before and snug it up a bit, and then we go around and down the new peg. Okay, up the peg before, and then around. Okay, so we can go down the new peg, up the old peg, snugging it up, go around, down the new peg, up the old peg, snugging it up, around, down the old peg, up the new peg, snugging it, and around, down the new peg, up the old peg. Oop, got some extra pegs there, and snugging it up, and around, and down the new peg, up the old peg, and around. This yarn doesn't particularly like the bind offs. Gets a little bit fat here. Okay, up the old peg and around, down the new peg, up the old peg and around, down the new peg. Oop, from behind here. Okay, up the old peg. Okay, then around, down the new peg, last peg too, up the old peg, and around, and then I'm just going to go up to finish it off. Okay, and we'll just have to tighten that, take off the needle. Now all you have to do is take it off the loom. And it'll give us 2 loops that are easy to pick up when we turn it into a blanket. Okay. Now this one you can put a knot in it if you want, but I'm going to use this lightly to connect them. We'll see when I make my decision here, but you Okay, we're going to just give this the stretches to set the stitches. And here we go. Here it is. There's our square. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, bye.